Your life, for those of us listening here, is not anything remotely normal. You're not
Not
an average
necessarily.
cubicle dweller. You're not somebody who we would expect to see in everyday life. You've taken a wild path, and you're probably most well known for Naked and Afraid. And I know you're probably sick of talking about that, but we got to talk about it a little bit. I've been kind of binging Naked and Afraid because I had watched a few episodes randomly, but then when we found out we were going to get you on, and we're going to have your wife on later, I was
Yep,
like,
yep.
I got to watch this because I have a few buddies who are like really into it, and their wives are really into it.
Oh yeah.
And they always said to me, there's one guy who actually seems to know how to hunt, and it was you. And so I'm watching this and I'm going, the first thought is, how the hell do you get your feet to where you can handle that?
So on average, production gives you about anywhere from essentially 6 days to 2 months or more. And I've had as little as 6 days notice and as much as a couple months. And the very first thing I do every time is make sure I go out there and start walking barefoot. Well, most of us, we love our hunting boots. Why? Because it protects our feet. So as soon as you go and start walking around barefoot, you realize, man, wearing those boots every day really takes our feet and makes them like little wimps.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll immediately, your first week you're walking out, your feet hurt, your feet are sore. So you get out there and you just start doing as much as you can barefoot. I am to the point now, I've done so many of these.
Yep.
I've gone on 6 of these challenges now. So for me, it's any minute I could get a phone call to go back out. So I always try to keep my feet in a state of a little bit of readiness.
Mm-hmm.
And Colorado is not exactly all year round, walking around barefoot.
Mm-hmm.
And, unfortunately, the production part of this almost always seems to happen in the fall and winter. So then you go out and you're like, I got to walk barefoot in the snow.
Yep.
And, so it makes a definite challenge your feet. And the better you can walk, barefoot, the better you're going to be able to do. But that's why you'll see me on there often, go out immediately, kill something, make some shoes out of it because, feet are tough.
I was curious about that because the shows I watched, you're famous for taking a trad bow out there and hunting on these shows a lot. And I'm watching you walk around, and it made me realize the other episodes I had seen, you watch people walk and you go, that person's never hunted. Like they've never tried to be quiet. And I'm watching you and I'm going, this dude knows what he's doing. And then what impressed me so much was on the Africa show where you'd built the blind on the water hole. And you missed a bunch of stuff coming in because it looked like kind of long shots and everything was like a little bit spooky in your first blind. And then when you built it up more and then you started using that tree in front of you, I go, this guy knows what he's doing. Like I could see the setups on some of those Impala and stuff, and you're going, this guy recognized the hunting situation. It wasn't quite right. Fixed it again, and then started killing stuff. And I was wondering, when you were actually successful, because I know you've killed some pigs, and I saw you kill a warthog too. How receptive was the network to that? Because it's a survival show, but it's like
it is
sort of mainstream, not hunting show.
It's crossing the line that hasn't really been crossed, and that's like network television showing that kill shot from the hunting show. And as a hunting perspective goes, like I found some real big challenges just hunting out there on that show is camouflage. That was the one thing that got me off the back. Is I'm a shiny human. Even when I'm covered in mud, eventually it falls off. Eventually you start sweating, and that's when you realize, like, okay, that's why we came up with camo. It's why we came up with certain things. And as I'm as I'm going through those different battles, you're dealing with production, and these guys they're not sitting there filming a high dollar hunting show.
Yeah.
They're filming an LA TV show. And I mean, they won't help you, but what they do all the time is hurt you.
Yep.
And so I'll be covered in mud, covered in elephant dung and Impala dung, sitting there, flies eating me, mosquitoes, whatever it might be, ants all over me. And then here's camera guy wearing bright yellow aftershave. And I'm like, oh, come on. So I had to learn real quick. I had to out hunt my camera crew.
Yep.
And I would have to build them a blind and myself a blind. And then I'd have to set them up in a way that they knew they could figure out, like, to get that hunting shot. Because they didn't know that hunting shot. They never had to take that before, in the filming world, really. So So I would set it up. Now I'm hungry enough. I'm not going to wait too much for that perfect shot to get that animal in the perfect window so you can see that, kill shot with the arrow. But at the same time, I need it to be relevant enough so people understand what's really happening, the true moment.
Yeah.
And, once I got the first big game animal on the show's history was down in the Amazon jungle. And that was the jungle pit. Now that I killed it out by myself. I just GoPro in my head. And when I came back, production was like floored because they were like, whoa, how are we going to show this? Like, this guy just killed this big animal. Now we're gutting it. And we're doing all the field prep. And they're looking around like, do we film this, the gutting part of this? Do we film like, the actual field dressing, all the important part that us hunters don't even think twice about? But the network was like, so they filmed it, but they didn't show it. They felt like, the public wasn't quite ready to see, guts yet. Well, then when they aired it, they thought, okay, they even told me, they're like, hey, you're probably going to get attacked by anti-hunters. PETA people are going to blow you up. Well, then it aired and I'm waiting. I knew there's animal rights people that are going to blow me up for killing an Amazon pig and, the pristine Amazon.
Yep.
And I'm waiting and waiting. All of a sudden it airs. There's nothing but like respect, for me, because I gave that animal respect. I showed it respect in the woods. And I was like, wow, nothing yet. Well, then I get a phone call driving home and phone call. And it's this lady who immediately says, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm president of this West chapter, something, PETA organization. And I thought, here it is. So I thought this would be entertaining, right? I was like, all right, I'll listen to her just rip me apart. And I was like, okay, what would you like to say? And then she starts talking. She's like, well, I saw you, you get that pig in the Amazon. And I thought, okay, here it is. And all of a sudden she starts getting emotional. And as she's getting emotional, I'm listening even harder here. And she's like, I saw you, she talks about how I showed so much emotion and some part of my soul for that pig. And then she starts breaking down, crying. She says she no longer can support PETA. She no longer can be against hunters because she realizes it is a part of our soul to hunt. It's how we existed before. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, and she just wanted to call me and tell me personally that I changed her life. Big day. I just turned a PETA person around, which is huge. First thing I did, I called Brooke. I was like, Brooke, you would not believe what happened. PETA called me. She's like, oh, what did they say? And I'm like, no, they wanted to thank me. Yep. And ever since that first pig, now I've gotten, I think I'm eight or so big game animals. Not all of them have aired necessarily with the timing they have to air them, but every time now I've had positive feedback because I didn't sit there and kind of grotesque that animal. I didn't sit there and like yell and stomp on it and drag it, throw it over hill, anything like grotesque. I did what all us hunters, our true hunter does, and he gets emotional after the kill and gets respect for that animal. And, it was amazing. But every time now, so far, as it airs worldwide, I've gotten a lot of incredibly positive feedback. A lot of people say, I don't know why you need to hunt those. And then they look at they watch the show and they're like, I gotta hunt it. It's part of us. Well, so it's positive.
That's super interesting because, I kind of, when I started watching the shows, I was like, I go in expecting this Hollywoody version of survival, and there's obvious production elements, there's drone shots and things like that that you're just going to get, but there's also just a very real, portrayal of people hunting hungry. And that's it seems like so intuitive, but it's such a simple bridge between not understanding why you would do it and completely understanding why you do it. And you can see, there's a lot of shock value to it. Of course, you're showing predators all the time and you're showing all the nasty stuff that can get you, but it's palpable that people are hungry and they're getting skinnier. And it's their world is being reduced to survival. And a huge part of that is just getting enough calories every day. And you watch people, Yeah, I mean, you watch people and you go, these people are like trying to catch grasshoppers and stuff, and then there's other people out here trying to kill a pig.
Oh, like, you get incredibly hard up, and then I always tell people, as you watch these episodes, you'll see me say often, I'm dangerous when I'm hungry, and it's not that I'm just like coming up with some cliche thing to say. Mm-hmm. It is truly, once your body gets into that hunger mode. Now, it sucks. All of us know that time where we miss that opportunity or miss that shot at an elk or deer, turkey, whatever, wherever we're hunting. Mm-hmm. But when you're out there and you're surviving and you know that you may only get one opportunity that entire time to get ahead of the game. And if you miss it, it will haunt you for way, way longer than you would ever haunt you in a normal hunting situation because you know that that's your survival. Mm-hmm. I view it like there is no end. I have to survive every day as if I'm going to be out there forever. And so then you're out there and you get hungry. Now, each step, the entire day, you're hunting. A lot of times I think as hunters, we'll walk fast to get to where we're going. Yep. We've all spooked game on the way to where we're going. Mm-hmm. And out there, you can't make that mistake. You have to take every advantage you can because you're naked. You're not, it's not like you have scent-free soap on or, yep. You're not at all in like the advantage of that game.
Yep.
And because of that, every step is so important that when you do get hungry, you really have to grit down and say, okay, I'm hungry now. If I don't get something, I'm going to be real hungry. And that's when you go out, you try to make something happen. Mm-hmm. Now I've eaten a lot of scorpions on the way to hunt. What they don't show a lot on the episode is, you'll see, Matt killed all these game animals. Well, you didn't see it as I was lifting rocks and mowing down on scorpions because I needed something to give me energy from point A to point B to even hunt that day. And before you know it, you walk 7, 8 miles, 10 miles in a day. You just burned thousands of calories and you ate nothing but like 3 scorpions. Well, if next day you're like, okay, I got to up my game. I either got to eat 30 scorpions or I got to kill something. And eventually you get behind the 8 ball a little bit, and it's all about that opportunity to get back ahead, and you have to sometimes eat that stupid little stuff.
That's interesting because, most people don't get into a position where they're truly hungry, like where they can feel it in their body. The energy's gone. The mental capacity starts to slip a little bit. And I think the closest most of us get is on those elk hunts or those, high country hunts where you might set out for a half a day with a half a day's worth of food. And all of a sudden you've climbed, a couple thousand extra vertical feet and you've been following bugling bulls. And all of a sudden you're like, you become more in tune with your body. And that's one of the reasons why some of these endurance athletes are so good at backcountry hunting. Aside from just being in shape, they're just in tune to the fact, like they know how to fuel. And when you're in that situation, you don't have that choice. And like, I'm wondering about that because I can't imagine a scenario in my life where I'd be hungry enough to eat scorpions personally, but I also am not in that situation. Like, how do you prepare for that? So you get the call, you're like, okay, I'm going to Africa. I mean, it's going to be however many days, however many weeks. You start brushing up and going, okay, I can eat this, no consequences. I can eat this. How do you prepare for that?
Like I said, you get a little bit of prep time. So you kind of, what you do immediately is you get on there and you try to find out what can you find. Well, certain places in the world, there's a lot of information. People have wrote, books and documentaries and all kinds of things about it. In other places, very little has actually been written about it. And once you get out there, you could read everything in the world. But the one that comes down to how perfect is your memory. Mm-hmm. I've read, like books on books of different locations. And then you get out there and you look and you're like, man, that tree I read about. Either it's going to be a food source or it's going to kill me. Mm-hmm. So you sit there, you're like, okay, if you don't know 100% if that's the tree that kills you or cures you, then you really can't eat it. And I've gone entire challenges just staring at those trees, trying to remember, what the heck does that do? You get out of the challenge and you find out, oh, it cures an upset stomach. And you're like, that wouldn't have done anything for me. And so the plant life is tricky. There's some things that we're very familiar with that, we have in Colorado that you'll find similarly anywhere that you can eat, but it doesn't really give you any like good calorie content. But what I know I can always eat is pretty much almost every animal and fish. And so I go out there and I'm like, you know what? I'll pass on eating something that looks like wild spinach. And instead, I'll go for that squirrel, or I'll go for that rat, or hell, I'll go for that scorpion, because, as most things go, you can eat them and you have a less of a risk of really getting yourself in trouble, because plant life can kill you real quick. Animal life, even bugs, as long as you're familiar with what you're eating a little bit of, and you're not swallowing, some, toxic frog, you're pretty safe.
Yeah.
And I've eaten some weird things. I mean, I've eaten an ant in Thailand. It was about that big. It's gigantic ant. It literally could carry a quarter. I guarantee if you strapped a quarter to its back, it'd carry a quarter and carry it away. And that ant was so big, I'm eating like hundreds of these little fire ants they had that tasted like Frank's Red Hot sauce, which was surprisingly good. And I'm eating hundreds of these, and I thought, man, that's one ant. That's like 50 ants. I just eat that one ant. And that ant is still to this day one of the worst things I've ever eaten in my life. It was like I just scraped something off the road from roadkill and took a bite in like the nastiest roadkill. Oh, it was so bad I couldn't even like get my mouth to spit it out. I just had to like let it fall out. And, it's like, okay, lesson learned. Don't eat slow ants. If anything's slow in the wild, I found out its self-defense is most likely tastes like shit. So so you have to really, if it's fast, if it's hard to catch, most likely it's safe to eat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, does it make you think, because you talk about becoming somewhat of a browser with the plant life, and you see that a lot, like that's a strategy a lot, but the juice really isn't worth the squeeze because of the calorie content and the nutritional content's pretty low. So then the next logical thing is insects, because they're probably easier to find and easier to catch. But the reality is going out and arrowing a pig is like, 10,000 times better. I mean, it makes me think like there's a reason, 10,000 years ago, they were making cave drawings of, elk and not asparagus. I mean, like it just means so much more to you for survival.
Oh, without a doubt, like when you look back in the primitive people, I'm sure they ate a lot of bugs and grubs and everything else in between. And, if you look at like, some of the plant life, yes, they ate, but you can't live most plants. There's no way you can live long-term off plants. Mm-hmm. So they hunted these big animals. And on the challenge for me, for example, Amazon, right? No one's ever killed a big game animal on the show. And I'm in the Amazon, and I'm not going to lie, the Amazon is intimidating to walk around butt naked, barefoot. And you're not familiar with it. It's not like you get a boot camp in the Amazon to like learn the place before they put you naked. You're freaking naked and seeing it for the first time. And I'd walk out with no production crew, just GoPro on my head, no radio, no GPS, nothing. If I got lost, I was lost. If I got hurt, I was hurt. I mean, it was without a doubt, it is TV show, but you could die on that show insanely fast if you're not careful. And I'd walk out there, I'd walk past bushmaster snakes, I'd walk past, all kinds of venomous insects. And I was sitting there, I'm like, this is stupid. I was like, why am I pushing myself this far to try to get one of these pigs? And then I thought to myself, well, that's what us humans did. Mm-hmm. Throughout history, no one, if you stopped every time you saw, something creepy and you were like, that's it, I'm not walking any further, then you'd never have got it succeeded. Yeah. And I pushed myself where, it was to the point of if I got turned around, I was lost for a while. Amazon, you'd be lost for a long time.
Yep.
And I pushed myself then, and I just got a little bit further. And when I went that little bit further, I connected with that pig, and I realized right then that, that's what we did as people. Really, mm-hmm. It's cool. It's a really neat thing is you see those cave paintings, like you were saying, or you read about the people of various eras. They probably went days and weeks and maybe months without that big kill. But once they figured out that they could get it, there was no turning back. After that, that was their main focus throughout, just about every single civilization.